believe that reaction time task was given during the retrieval process, the retrieval stage. Whereas the example I'm giving here right now is in the encoding stage. Say, for example, you have to learn a list of words, and at the same time you have to do an additional task. So what happens is that it always disrupts memory performance. But the effect is much larger for older adults than young people. So one possibility is that for older adults, it's harder for them to divide their attention. They don't have as much resources. And that idea we'll also come back to later on when we talk about sources of age differences.
So it's harder to divide their attention?
It's just harder for them to have that attentional control. Remember the idea of attentional control? Okay. In the Stein paper. Okay. And the other thing that some researchers have noticed as well about encoding is that sometimes older adults don't seem to be using as many elaborative rehearsal type of strategies compared to young people. But findings on that actually are mixed. So the bottom line is that, yes, there are certain things going on as we age that can impair encoding, make it harder for people to encode information. And so now, we'll go back to that later if, when there's a point when I think it's going to be very relevant to the discussion on retrieval. But now let's focus on the second stage, storage. It's when we forget things. How can we be sure that we actually have forgotten something? What does forgetting mean?
That you lose the stored memory, that you couldn't pull it up even if you were cued to it.
Okay, I like the second part in particular. The first part that he mentioned was that you lose the stored memory. Is it really true, Kim? And is it really true that we have lost it? Or, like he said, maybe even after cueing and trying very hard, you still can't pull that thing out from your memory storage. So we think it's lost. But even then, can we be sure that it's lost?
No.
No? Okay.
It's hibernating.
How can we tell? I mean, how?
Alicia just said, sometimes you want to remember a number or something, and then you don't remember it, and then the next day it pops into your head.
Yeah. Has anybody else have a similar experience before? Like trying very hard, just forget, and then it comes back to mind. So I guess what I really want to tell you is that storage compared to encoding and retrieval is a very, very difficult concept to study. And because of that, we don't know as much about storage. We know way more about encoding and retrieval than storage because it's just very hard to really find out what is going on here or maybe elsewhere. So, and what we do know is that when some people have attempted to look at storage and whether people store things differently, they don't seem to find a huge age difference. So say, for example, storage. Think of it as your closet, okay? And it seems like there are certain places where you're going to put your shirt and your skirts, your pants, and different things. You fold some of those, you hang some of those. Seems like the way how it's being organized. Those ways are very similar across different age groups. So a more concrete example would be that if we're talking about bananas and apples, they're semantically similar in the same category. They're both fruits. So for older adults and for younger adults, if you look at the brains, if you're looking for activation and so on for these categories, they seem to be very, very similar. So they won't categorize apple into a different category just because they're old. Does that make sense? Okay. So bottom line is we don't know as much about storage. So we're going to move on to retrieval unless there is any question. Oh, okay. Retrieval. We've talked about that already earlier today. So there are two basic types, recall and recognition. And in recall, that means the information is being reproduced from memory. And it requires some level of self-initiated effort. What that means is that, for example, if I'm asking, can somebody give me an example of a recall task? Just from your daily experience, day-to-day experience. What is a recall task?
I have to remember like a phone number or something.
Phone number, That's a good one.
Where did I leave my keys this morning?
Did you leave your keys? Okay, that's good. Now, yes.
Just to use the microwave, the steps,
Okay, how to use the microwave?
specific steps.
Okay. Now, how about with the key example? If I say, tell me, I'm going to show you two sets of keys, and I ask you, tell me which set of key belongs to you. If a selection is involved, then.
That's recognition, right?
That's recognition. That's not a very good example of recognition memory. I just noticed, actually. But that is one way of looking at the difference between recall and recognition. Recognition usually involves some sort of presentation of information that already provide you with the knowledge that the information has been seen before. All you need to do is to select what is being learned and what was not learned. So in a way, recognition provides you with more cues, and so it's of lesser complexity. And so the information itself, the alternative, can potentially be used as a cue as well. Is that clear? Okay. Now, if we go back to the idea of recall, there are at least two kinds of recall. One that we refer to as free recall. So if we just say one of the really, really common tasks that people have used in the past in experiments would be a word list. We send you with a list of words, 12 to 16 words, one word at a time. We send it verbal. You just say them out loud. After that's done, now they ask you, tell me as many words as you can remember from the previous list. So people have to really recall what they have learned. And now the other kind of recall is cued recall. What do you think that would be?
They represented with a list, and then after, here's a word, was it one of the words? Here's another word, was it one of the words?
That's more like a recognition task, actually. Because, yes.
Well, if you have a set of words that you're trying to remember, you would give them a statement concerning the word that would help, like, jog their memory about the word.
Was it in one of the articles? I don't
I
remember.
think so.
Okay. So that's one example. When you present them with the word list, for each word you actually also give them a cue. And then now, when it comes
What does that mean, a cue, like a
a
definition or something?
It could be a statement about a definition. It could be a totally irrelevant statement that goes along with the word, the target word. Or another example I can think of is that a lot of times for those word lists, we actually give them words that are in different categories. So we don't tell you that they're in different categories, but they're in different categories. So when you give the person the category and say, some of the words on that list are animal words, can you tell me what those words are? That's a cue as well. Make sense? Okay. Can someone think of any other examples, or are we good? Shall we move on? That's all clear? Free and cued recall. What do you think for older adults, or in terms of age differences? Free recall, cued recall, recognition. Which would be the task that they perform worst?
Worst?
Free recall.
Okay, why is that so?
It's the hardest to do.
Okay, and we'll think about why it may be the hardest to do later on. And what is the one that they're best